Hey there, boils and ghouls. Today we're going to be doing something that I've actually been wanting to do on this channel for a while. We are going to be doing a Q&A today. Some of these questions were pulled from Instagram, some from Patreon, but all of these questions came from you guys. Without further ado, let's just get into the questions. What inspired you to do YouTube? So it was actually kind of like the perfect combination of things. First of all, I'm a writer, and I'm always looking for new ways that I can just explore new ways of writing, and I kind of wanted to throw my hand in as far as script writing goes. It wasn't something that I'd really had experience with, but considering YouTube is available, it seemed like a very good opportunity to at least try. On top of that, as much as I do have a writer's background, I also have like a tiny background in performance. I was that kid in high school that was in all of the very cringy plays that only your parents watched. And one of those plays that I just happened to be in high school was something called Playhouse of the Damned. It was very much like a Tales from the Crypt style show.
Greetings, boars and ghouls.
Complete with its own Crypt Keeper type character who was Gus the Ghoul. And although Gus the Ghoul was a male character,
I was the only person who was allowed to play that character.
I tried so hard for it and I got the role and I did the whole performance and I just fell in love with playing that type of character. And on top of that, with Gus the Ghoul being a male character in the script, I kind of had to take my own personal interpretations to the character, considering obviously I wasn't gonna be playing a male version of Gus the Ghoul. So on the one hand, I had inspirations like John Kassir, quite obviously because of the whole Tales from the Crypt associations.
Be careful what you ask for. You may get it.
But I also threw in a bunch of other like actors and fictional characters that inspired me in their own way, including Elvira, Jennifer Tilly, Fairuza Balk, Harley Quinn. All of these characters I take elements that I really liked from them and I throw them into Gus the Ghoul. And over time, it kind of became my own personal character that I had a very hard time letting go of after I finished with Playhouse of the Damned. And then on top of that, I was also very inspired by a lot of movie reviewers that I used to watch in high school, including Obscurus Lupa, Diamanda Hagen, Lindsay Ellis. And in particular with Obscurus Lupa and Diamanda Hagen, they were both very good at introducing me to movies that I would never have known about if it wasn't for them. So that was kind of something that I wanted to do with my own channel as well. Yeah, long answer, but basically that's it. What's the first movie you ever saw in cinema? Disney's Hercules. I much would have preferred to be taken to Wishmaster or even Batman and Robin that summer.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
But, you know, I was only 2, so Meg may or may not have inspired a little bit of my character on this channel as well.
My friends call me Meg, at least they would if I had any friends. So, did they give you a name along with all those rippling pectorals?
But also, just like James Woods as Hades cannot be topped. Like, name a more iconic Disney villain. Oh, wait.
What? Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
But did I want to keep watching the most basic movies out there? No, I wanted to see something messed up. Do you believe in aliens?
No.
So I'm kind of one of those people that gives the cliche answer of the universe is way too big for there not to be something out there. As far as whether or not I believe that aliens have made contact with Earth, it wouldn't surprise me, but end of day, if they have made contact with Earth, then they are clearly of an intellect that does not at all match my own, and I am way too scared to explore that possibility, so let's just move on. So this next one is kind of a two-part question. It gets to basically the same thing, but it's what do you love about horror movies? And what was your first introduction to horror? My mom was a huge horror movie fan way before I was born, so I was kind of raised with horror movies as just a general thing in my life. I do have this very distinct memory of my mom watching Puppet Master when I could not have been older than like 3 or something like that. And I just wandered out and I begged her, please let me watch this. And I loved every minute of it, especially Leech Woman, who I thought was just the most beautiful, deadly, gorgeous villain who's absolutely useless, and I realize that now that I'm an adult, but at the time I thought that she was great. And I just have this memory of falling to sleep watching Puppet Master and just having this smile on my face and feeling like I was so happy watching this movie, and that stuck with me for a very long time. When I got a little bit older and I decided that I wanted to be a writer, I did decide that I wanted to focus quite heavily in the horror genre, and part of that included going to university and taking courses on the horror genre, which introduced me to a lot of very amazing, especially gothic writers that I just absolutely fell in love with, and introduced me to a side of horror that I hadn't really seen before. And mostly that was the ability that horror has to give a voice to things that we don't want to hear about. So for instance, we have something like Oscar Wilde, who wrote the gothic novel The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is very much a discussion of what it was to be a homosexual or bisexual man living in the Victorian period. Something that maybe the mainstream audience wouldn't want to talk about. But horror gave him his voice in this very unique sort of way. And even if we don't want to talk about like specifically minority voices, we also have something like Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, which was written in the 1950s and deals very heavily with fears around the Cold War. Things that people just generally do not want to think about, discuss, anything like that. Horror gives a very good vehicle for people to talk about the ugly, the unexplored, the weird, the marginalized in some cases. It's very interesting to me the way that horror kind of opens up this entirely new way of storytelling that I really appreciate. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? I'm definitely more of an introvert. I've never really felt the need to go out and seek big crowds. I'm much more comfortable with just a small group of friends. If honestly not just me, myself, and a book. Wins or calamari? I really do enjoy calamari, it's just that I'm not always in the mood for something fishy, so kinda just depends on my mood. If I want it, then cool. If not, wins. Do you believe in ghosts? I do, I just don't know if I believe in ghosts in the same way that the general person tends to think of it. More or less what I tend to think is I believe in energy, and I believe that if something very horrible, tragic, anything along those lines, if something happens within this space, the negative energy has a tendency to collect within this area. Sometimes that might just mean that people who are more sensitive to energy will pick up on it and start to be very uneasy and start to notice things that are maybe more normal. They're just uncomfortable because of this energy. They're more on edge, so they're just noticing literally everything around them. And sometimes I think that the energy may manifest in ways that are more harmful, but generally speaking, I don't think that it's the souls of dead people. I kind of think that those have moved on already. I believe more in this idea of energy. When did you decide that you wanted to be a writer? From the time that I was very young, I was reading just constantly. When I was in elementary school, basically my only friend was the librarian, which is really sad, but we're not going to dwell on that. Moving on, this librarian was the one that kind of introduced me to the idea that writing was something that you could actually do. I have been obsessed ever since. Honestly, as much as I think that like every writer will tell you the same thing, writing is horrible, but regardless, it's something that's just a part of me. I feel like it's something I cannot let go of. I will never not be a writer. It's just a compulsion. I can't stop myself. I will always end up writing something in some way, whether it be a novel, a short story, a script for a YouTube video. I just need to write. Favorite non-horror movie? I have narrowed it down to the top 5, and this is in no particular order either. Princess Bride, Labyrinth, Beauty and the Beast, the original, not that shitty remake, Batman Returns, and Moulin Rouge. The worst film that you've reviewed on your channel so far? There is absolutely no competition for this. I know my answer right off the bat. Where the Dead Go to Die.
Because unfortunately, I have not reviewed Troll 2 or The Room.
No, Where the Dead Go to Die, I would say, is worse quality than those two. First of all, the animation is just absolutely horrible. The voice acting is horrible.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Stanley,
But it's not alive.
And maybe I could forgive all of that because I have seen some horrible movies in my day and I am willing to accept a lot. It was just the subject matter that the movie chose to deal with on top of that. It was like watching a Serbian film if you mixed a Serbian film with Troll 2. Where did you get the name Celine? I have just always been obsessed with the moon. I think that the moon symbolizes a lot of things that I really want to embody, whether that be creativity, femininity. It's just something that I've always felt myself drawn towards. So when I decided that I want to take on like a second name for this channel, I kind of came up with the idea Celine just based off the fact that she was the goddess of the moon. And that is all of the questions that we have for today. I will definitely be doing another one of these Q&As in the future, so make sure that you leave a comment down below if you have any questions that I haven't answered here that you want to know more about. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me.
What are you doing on computer? Go outside, so beautiful!
Although donating to my Patreon is unnecessary, it is hugely appreciated. As little as $3 a month could help me put out many more videos. In that note, I would like to thank Wilson L. Ricks III, Scott Falks, and Andre K. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. I can't wait to see you all next time.